Ducks fans, are you ready? You are listening to the Ducks and Pucks podcast. This is the #1 home for Anaheim Ducks talk and analysis. Here we go.
Welcome to the show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Richard. And we have a jam-packed show for you. Plenty of things to discuss. We've got several Duck games to cover that recently happened. We've also got a special guest. We have Noah from Shell Shock Designs. He's going to come on and talk about the mask that he did for Kobe Bryant and all the victims of the tragic helicopter crash. Some league news that we'll cover at the end as well, and more trade news with the Ducks, some articles and some things coming up with some of the players. So we'll break those down for you as well as we get through everything, and then a couple announcements at the end. But before we start the show, I just want to dedicate this podcast to Kobe Bryant, his daughter, his family basically, and everybody else affected in the helicopter crash. We'll be talking about it throughout the show. And we'll kind of talk about the month of January and how it's kind of been rough for a lot of people. But we'll get to that throughout the program and discuss it at the end with a little final thought from Eddie and I. So let's get to the Ducks here. This last week or so, Eddie, we'll talk about the games. You know, they played the Sharks, the Coyotes, the Lightning, and the Kings after coming out of their league break and their all-star break. And they ended up winning 2 and losing 2. So when they first came out of the break, they played the San Jose Sharks, and it wasn't really the best game. This was probably the worst game, I would say, of these 4. The Ducks got scored on twice early in the contest, got behind. You had Kase getting a shorthanded goal, but then the San Jose again scoring 2 more goals, Marleau and Stefan Nason. And the Ducks were down 4-1 in this one. Got a late power play goal by Nick Ritchie, who came back into action, got off the IR. But overall, this wasn't really a good game for the Ducks. You would think that they had all that rest, with the time off, Eddie, but they came back and they actually came out kind of flat-footed in this one.
Yeah, they seem to have just a step behind San Jose. I don't know what was going on. We're still hung over from their little vacations. So that was frustrating. Kase's goal was just a highlight reel goal, like you said, on DucksNPucks Twitter. It was a beautiful goal. But they just seemed to have one step behind the San Jose Sharks and let a guy that's 40, 41 years old kind of just, make him seem like he's a 20-year-old again. But the goals he scored and the way he was playing, it was really just bad to see them lose to the Sharks. Us being Ducks fans, you don't like the Sharks either. I probably dislike the Sharks more than the Kings at times, but it's just one of those games where they weren't ready to play, they weren't prepared. It just seemed that they were just kind of struggling a little bit. I did like Nick Ritchie's play, though. I know I've been critical in the past shows about his play, but he actually seemed like he looked really good, and he just seemed a little faster to me, and he seemed a little like he lost a little bit of weight. So I don't know if that contributed to his speed increasing or something, but he scored a good goal too. It's just one of those games where the Ducks just weren't ready to play, and another team that's in the bottom of the standings too just took advantage of that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what happened this last week. The Ducks played the Sharks and the Kings, right? All 3 of them at the bottom of the Pacific, which we're not used to. We're used to all 3 being in the top, but you're right. They're playing another team at the bottom. The Ducks only had 4 shots on goal in the first period. And being outshot 11-4, getting down 2-0 was not a good start. The good news, like you said, is Nick Ritchie came back. He was off the IR. He did score a goal. He played about 18 minutes in this game. Also had some time on the power play, so he did at least have a good, coming back from the IR, if you would say, on this game. But the Ducks were also without Silverberg. He had his baby girl that was born, so congrats to them. He was at home, obviously, during this game. Family's important, of course, and so we want to wish them well. So there was some happy news for the month of January, and we did have another fight in this game too, Eddie. The Anaheim Ducks Fight Club. This time, Goodbranson and Kane, and a pretty good scrap. I would say it was pretty even, though Goodbranson probably would have got more of an edge if the refs wouldn't have really screwed this one up. You know what I mean, Eddie?
Oh, yeah, they always just prematurely come in and break up a fight. It's like, hey, if 2 guys are willing to go, they both agree on it. And I mean, it's part of the code. Let them go. Let them fight. it seems like every fight, and not just like watching the Ducks, but like every team, the refs are so quick to just want to jump in there and break it up. Like this is a game that's known for this, and people love it. Like I was talking about you off air when I was at the downtown or Old Town Pasadena at the bar. Once they showed that Edmonton Calgary clip, everyone kind of stopped what they were doing. We're watching that. Like that just generates new fans. It's just part of the game. But yeah, it was good. And Gabranch is a big guy, and I know Kane's big too. But then when they were toe to toe, I'm like, man, Gabranch is like has that size on him. I really wish the refs had just kind of backed off a little bit and let them go.
Yeah, that was kind of unfortunate there because then they did back off, but at that point it was kind of like, okay, now we're going to go. I mean, it just kind of disrupted the whole flow of that sequence like you talked about. So this game, like we said, not the best game. The Ducks also did recall DeLeo, Jones, and Terry for this contest after the break. So that's what happened with the first game, unfortunately. But after that, the next 3 games, the Ducks played a lot better. They won 2 out of 3. And we'll talk about the Tampa one a little bit. They probably could have gone to overtime in that one. But the first one, they came back home and they played Arizona. And as we talked about in the beginning about the helicopter crash and everything, this game was one of the most emotional games. I mean, there's just so much going on in this one. And before the game, it was Angel Night at Honda Center. So you had the Angel players out there for the puck drop. They had the puck with number 24 on it. They had the 24-second runoff as well. Just awesome job by Phil Hewlett, his entertainment group, and just the entire Ducks organization. I mean, that was just... I don't know. I didn't have a dry eye at the beginning of the game with this whole ceremony and everything that happened. They had all 9 victims' names up there on the big screen and everything. And I mean, I don't know, Eddie. I just... It was amazing to see. We posted some photos on the game recap and things like that. Obviously, the Ducks won, which was good. But I mean, the bigger thing in this one was just just honoring all the people in it and the way that the Ducks did it. I just thought it was a class act all the way.
Definitely, I think Phil did an amazing job. Him speaking about it. It was a really emotional night, and I'm not a basketball fan, I'm not a Kobe fan, but I can respect that sport, and I can respect the sport's legend. And for all those 9 victims that tragically lost their lives, that's really unfortunate, especially them being a few of them being kids. It's just I have my best friend. He's in tears. That was his idol growing up. That's just like Kobe is to him is like my Solani. And so I can't even imagine the pain and the suffering that people were going through losing a legend like that. And it's really sad. It's really unfortunate. But I'm glad that the Ducks did what they did. I think they honored him and honored all the victims. What a beautiful tribute. I really love how the hockey community and the hockey world kind of got together. It's like, and we're able to honor all the victims and respect the legend that passed away. And it just... that was like touching to me, and I love seeing that kind of things from this game. And I know we live now in a world where it's a lot of negativity, and it seems like that everyone's just kind of at each other's throats, and you're for this, you're for that, you're this and you're that, and people just don't really seem to be united. But I think that death kind of for a few seconds kind of paused the world and united people as one, and that's what I like to see. And it's unfortunate that a death had to get people like that, but it's just I'm really happy what the Ducks did and what the whole hockey community did. It was really moving and touching to me.
That's exactly, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, we'll talk more about it throughout the show. There's other stuff that's coming up too that we'll discuss in regards to everything that happened in this last week, really. As you all know, because it's been a tough month for Eddie and I with a lot of other stuff going on, which we'll talk about that towards the end of the show. But yeah, just an amazing job by Phil, his staff, and the Ducks in general. Great job. So, and in this game, the Ducks won this one. It was a good game. They opened up the scoring with Adam Henrique. He had 2 goals, the first one, and then he had a second one later in the first period. The Ducks got off basically to a 3-1 start by the middle of the game and didn't really look back. They outshot the Coyotes in this one. The power play wasn't on, but neither was the Coyotes' power play. They also got Silverberg back, right? He just had his baby girl, so now he was back in the action. And I guess the crazy part about this game, Eddie, was Rowney's goal at the end there, at the end of the second period, that shorthanded goal. So he wears number 24, and he scored the goal in the Ducks' 24th shot. It was also the Ducks' 24th home game. The score was 2-4, and it was also 24 seconds that had run off the power play for Arizona. So
24th shift of Rowney's too.
Oh, there you go. Another 24. I knew I was going to miss one. I was trying to recap all these things because different people were posting different things, and I was like, wait, is it what this, and that? So, just weird. I mean, that's just crazy to me. I mean, great game by the Ducks. They, emotional night, but just crazy to see that happen. You just kind of sit there and you're like, did that happen for a reason? I think so.
Yeah, it was just that was just crazy to see. I was showing a few of my buddies who don't follow hockey, just showing them that stat. They're like, man, that's crazy. One of my buddies like, yeah, I think Kobe might have been a Ducks fan, and he was there in the game. That's what he likes to think. It's just nuts how that happened. It's just it's just a fate, I guess, or fate. But on that game, the Ducks, like everything I said negative about the Ducks against the San Jose game, that was the Arizona Coyotes. They seemed like they were flat-footed, and the Ducks seemed to just have that one step ahead of them, and they couldn't get back in this game. It was a really good game. It was Angels night for a lot of the baseball fans, and also that tribute night. It was just beautiful, and like I'll go back to say it again, like the Ducks tribute, Gibson's mask, it's just absolutely amazing, and it was great. I posted on DucksNPucks a little tribute of our 24 that died, Roussan Soleil, who died in that plane crash. I kind of made it seem like he was shooting basketballs at Kobe, so I just I wanted to honor that, and I put all the victims on that picture too. But that game was kind of like meant for the Ducks to win, and they came out strong, and they had the chip on their shoulder. Like it's one of those rare games where you see the Ducks come out and they don't look like a last place team when they played the Arizona Coyotes. And Coyotes have a really deep team. They have a few superstars in their team that can really put the puck in the back of the net, and they shut them down.
Yeah, they did. You're right. I mean, and the Ducks turned it around. They played a lot better in this game, and it looked like Arizona was the team that was kind of flat-footed and not really ready to roll in this one. So, a good game, like we said, for the Ducks, and an emotional night as well. They then carried the play into the Tampa. They had back-to-back games, basically. They had Tampa Bay on Friday, and then they went to L.A. on Saturday. And the Tampa Bay game, they ended up losing this one 4-3. I didn't think they played that bad. They made some costly mistakes, but they went back and forth in the first period. Raquel had a crazy spinorama goal. Delzato had a great individual effort on his unassisted goal, and it was 2-2. And it seemed like the game was going to kind of remain that way for a while until late in the second period when Tampa Bay scored, and then of course they got another goal in the middle of the third. And the Ducks, they played okay. Terry got a very, very late goal to make it a one-goal game, but they ended up losing this one 4-3. But I thought that they could have at least maybe tied this one, Eddie. There was, some things that happened in this game where, things, if they would have gone the other way, they could have won. They've had some post shots in this contest. I felt the first goal, they just got kind of beat, getting to that puck behind the net. And if they would have tied it up, Sorelli on that, then maybe Palat doesn't get that first goal. And also on Kucherov's goal, Manson went to check him, hit him, but he didn't really hit him hard enough to kind of disrupt the play, and then he keeps on going and scores. So I think there were a few things that they could have done, to at least maybe tie this game and force overtime. But the Ducks didn't play bad. They outshot Tampa Bay in this game. They won the faceoffs in this contest. But again, the power play, they didn't come up with anything.
Yeah, this is one of those games where I always talk about, or if you just come out and play your hardest and play with passion and you lose, you can still have pride in that loss. Like, the Ducks played really well against a better team than they had. Tampa Bay they're faster. They might not be the strongest team, but they have a lot of speed. They have a lot of scoring. They have scoring that comes from those bottom six guys, and that can beat you, with a nice goal or two. But the Ducks kept up in this game, and they kept up with a very great team. So it's just one of those games where, the Ducks gave it their all, and it was really close. And it just, unfortunately, Tampa Bay just, scored more goals than they did. and won this game. But this is one of those games where you can't be like, oh, well, the Ducks suck. No, they played really well, and I like the way they played, and they had a lot of energy, they had a lot of speed in their game, and they kept up with a way better team than they are.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you got to remember. Tampa Bay is doing extremely well this season. They're one of the top teams in the East. Another favorite up there to go deep in the playoffs. We'll see, because we all know what happened last year when they got knocked out in the first round. Sorry to Phil. I know he's probably listening. Phil was
sorry, Phil.
Yeah, he was at the game too. But we'll see. I mean, Tampa Bay is a strong team. Honestly, I wasn't really that disappointed that the Ducks lost this game. I think there was just a couple little things here and there they could have done better, and they, like I said, might have gone to overtime or won this game. So the other thing was Gibson did have that mask, the one that we were talking about with Shell Shock Designs. He had it displayed in this game. He also wore it in the next game against the Kings, though Miller got the start because of the back-to-back games. So we'll talk about that in just a sec. But what a way to finish off the week, Eddie. The Ducks, they go to L.A., and they basically run over the Kings, at least for, half the game or two periods. They got a goal in the first period, a couple goals in the second. The Ducks were up 3-0 in this one. You had goals by Jones, Grant, and Larson in this, and it looked like the Ducks were going to blow them out. Toffoli gets a questionable goal, which we'll talk about that in a second. And they get the momentum, basically going into the third. And Miller really saves the day for the Ducks as the Kings, they did terrible in the first period with their shots, but they went nuts in that third period, getting 18 shots on goal. And they had 47 shots on the night. Miller stops 46. And the Ducks win this one, but good God, I know it was the day before Super Bowl, but Anaheim playing prevent defense in that third period just killed me, Eddie.
Oh yeah, and then, like you said, Miller was standing on top of his head, which was like so many shots going his way. He just didn't. He was adamant on not letting that go. And in my opinion, I think Miller should have that shutout. That goal they scored should not have counted. The rules state that when the referee attempts to blow the whistle, that's when the play is dead. So it's like, it's not just when you hear the whistle, it's when he makes the mere attempt. So that shouldn't have been a goal that the Kings scored, and Miller should have that shutout. And he played like it. He played really well. He looked like that old school Miller that, they used to play for the Sabres, that elite goalie, our USA goalie. He played great, and it just unfortunate that he kind of got screwed over on that. Yeah, that should have been a shutout, but the Ducks just came over there to win this game again, and I was kind of nervous, like, okay, back-to-back games, and, I'm like, okay, I wonder if the Ducks are going to come out strong, or are they going to be flat-footed? Am I going to get, a bunch of text messages from all my friends that are Kings fans saying, oh, your Ducks suck, they're worse than us, blah, 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 but nope, it was the opposite. It's funny because we have our group chat for my a few of my beer leagues. We combined both the teams into one chat, and then all the Ducks fans were talking crap. And I don't see a single a text from a Kings fan, just crickets over there and stuff like that. I think one guy mentioned like, "Oh, well, you guys are still a Disney team," but it's like, hey, well, you know what? The battle for the biggest loser, Ducks won this one.
Yeah, and that's the one thing I said too is. I know some of you out there are like, hey, let's just lose all the games. Let's do the whole tanking thing. Let's get the highest draft pick. And, I got you. We want to get a good draft pick. But one thing for me is, you know what? I don't want to lose to the Kings. I don't want to lose to the Sharks. They already lost to the Sharks earlier in the week. I'm like, come on, let's at least beat the Kings this time. So for me, I want them to beat the Sharks and the Kings anytime that we can this season. If they lose the rest, I'm not going to, be heartbroken, but still, I want them to play competitive as we've talked about. But really, when you're playing the Sharks and the Kings, you want to beat those teams. And you're right, Eddie. I was happy to see them win. Miller could have had that shutout. Like you said, there's a rule that, it seemed like nobody knew about this rule until this game. But as far as that goal, and this is why it was counted, per the NHL, but you can go look up the rule. It's 37.3. Says that they can now review a play when the puck enters the net as a culmination of a continuous play where the result of the play was unaffected by any whistle blown by the referee upon losing sight of the puck, which is new to me. I was like, I had to look it up too. I was like, what? And so what they're basically saying is that because Toffoli's shot, it was stopped by Miller, but then it was rolling and going into the net anyways, is why they counted it. Where as opposed to what you normally see is, the goalie stops the puck, ref loses sight of it, the puck usually sits somewhere behind the goalie, and then they'll blow the whistle, and then a player comes and then hits it in. So they're saying here, well, because no one tapped it in, it's close too. If you look at the replay, you thought maybe the Kings player tapped it in, but it didn't look like it. It ended up rolling in because it was all part of that shot. That's why they count it. So it's a weird rule. I mean, I kind of get it, but the problem I have with that rule is it's going to create a very gray area, in my opinion, is now you're going to have more of this, well, what's a continuous play and what's not a continuous play? I think that they should, stick back with the whole whistle rule. I mean, unless they blow the whistle during the shot and the shot's straight in the net. I mean, maybe, I guess, I don't know, something weird like that. But this is weird because it stopped and then the puck rolls after the fact. So part of the problem, and I think, Eddie, you can talk about this playing goalie, is, okay, you hear the whistle, you stop, and the puck rolls in because you stopped at the whistle. I mean, it's going to cause some problems.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, like once I hear the whistle blow, it's like, okay, I assume that it's all fair game, but as a goalie, too, you just don't want to let anything in back of your net. Like, I don't care when the whistle blows. Like, for me personally, when the whistle still blows, I just don't want that puck in my net. And there's been one incident last season where the whistle blew and this one guy kept trying to like shoot it after the whistle, just kind of being a dick or something. He actually got a blocker to the face because that pissed me off after the second time. But it's one of those things. It's a really weird rule, and I definitely disagree with that. And it still bothers me. Like I said, I stand by my original comment. I still think it should not have counted. It should have been blown dead before he blew it, regardless of what this new rule or random rule that just came up and what it says. I still don't think it's a goal.
Yeah, I mean, according to the rule, that's what they're going with, and it is a new rule for this season. So we'll see if they change it maybe in the offseason or not, but that's the way it went. I mean, it didn't affect the outcome. The Ducks did win. Yeah, it did disrupt Miller's shutout, which that was kind of irritating, but Ducks did get a win. We had another fight in this game. We had Delorier, McDermott. They went back at it. This one, again, Delorier got his helmet knocked off. If you remember, they fought it out back in December. But at least this one I felt was a lot more even of a fight. And I guess the other part that I really crack up about, Eddie, is all the Ducks fans that went there to the game. A whole bunch of them were in Section 316, and I guess they annoyed the Kings fans. They got complaints against some season ticket holders of the Kings in the sections next to them. There's a funny photo that someone sent me, and I circled the people that were upset. You see one of the Kings fans on there covering her face, and you see a couple of the guys there, and they have these looks on their face like they're just irritated. And I love it. I think it's funny because they come to Honda Center and try and terrorize us. So it was hilarious to see them, having it kind of put back in their face, that was pretty funny, Eddie. Not only did they win, but they got to celebrate in front of them.
Oh yeah, I was like, my stomach was hurting when I was laughing. And shout out to you for getting those foul tells for all those fans that were in attendance in that game. And that was really great. I wanted to go, unfortunately I couldn't. But it was just, I seen that photo and they were just so miserable. It's like, oh man, that was the funniest thing ever. But then when they come to Honda Center and they do the same BS and even worse, the way some of the fans act at Honda Center, it was just icing on the cake, especially with getting the win. Oh man, and them complaining. Like, come on, it's a sporting event. You're gonna complain. I bet the Kings would have won. You wouldn't have said anything. You just been like, okay, whatever. They all came here and they lost, but nope, we won. Like I said, battle of the biggest losers. You really can't really bitch about that.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a lot of. There was a big group that went in that section, and I got hit up by my buddy Patrick about the towels. So I was like, yeah, I'll make a whole bunch and give them out to people. I don't care. I thought it was like, hey, they want them, let's do it. So I provided those to everybody, just that went. I didn't charge anybody. So I just made them. I had a bunch already, but I made a bunch more. And Patrick went to the game and said, here, hand them out to everybody, like as many as you can. So there was a ton of those out there. And I know that there was a ton of fans throughout the arena. And it was pretty loud there for the Ducks fans. So that was hilarious. I loved it. Especially beating them and then having that. And then, like you said, I don't complain, to the ushers when the Kings fans come to Honda Center. I mean, unless they're like fighting or something. I mean, other than that, I don't really care. I mean, they're going to be loud and Rudy, fine, and we turn the tables on them. We don't always do it as much, but it was fun to see it for this one. So, this one was a good game for the Ducks. This was their best performance of the week. But like you said, they've been playing better. They went 2-2 in this last week. We really thought that they did good in the last three contests. So. And we talked about in these last couple games, Gibson wore his mask. He wore it in that game against Tampa Bay at Honda Center. They had the tribute, of course, the game against Arizona. He also wore it when he went to Staples Center. Of course, that's the house Kobe built that they talked about. So I reached out to Noah, who runs Shell Shock Designs, and he was able to have some free time and come on the show and talk about his mask and kind of a story about his own personal tragedy in his life and how he overcome it. So at this point, we'll bring him on the show and we'll talk about that. And now joining me with the show is Noah Ennis, who is the man behind the mask at Shell Shock Designs. Thanks for coming on the show, Noah.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So this last week, a lot of things happened around Southern California. Obviously, the helicopter crash, and then everything with Kobe and all the other victims. You ended up making a really good mask for John Gibson, which we'll talk about. And we'll talk about your company first and kind of how it started too as well. When you were growing up, I guess hockey was your big thing, playing it and whatnot. And this company was kind of not really the original plan for you, was it, initially?
No, I guess you could say it's kind of one of those things where God had other plans for my life than what I had originally planned.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess, unfortunately, you had an accident that kind of changed the course of some stuff, and then from there, you really had to go through rehab and a lot of things, I understand. And then the company was kind of the second plan, I guess, after that, if I'm correct.
Yep. On March 6, 2005, I was actually coming home from hockey, and being from the Northeast, I'm used to snow and ice and the whole 9 yards. And, the roads were just not very good. And it was kind of one of those things where the state declared it a no fault on my part and a no fault on the U.S. Postal Service's fault, and was hit head on by a U.S. Postal truck. The story is so long as far as what I remember, the helicopter ride, the amount of surgeries in the days following. Several times I was told, by the doctors, by my parents, by my grandparents, we're calling a priest. And it wasn't, I wouldn't necessarily say it was something that like you can even wrap your head around then, because it was almost like so surreal. Right. And it was kind of something, I would say 6 months after the fact, when you really like start to process everything that happened. But basically, after being confined to a wheelchair for a year and a half, a boxer at rehab said, "Hey, I can get you out of that wheelchair if you give me, a good 3 months and just basically do what I know how to do as far as retraining the muscles in your leg." Because I had such severe nerve damage. Everything on the left side of my body was completely replaced. I had several discs in my back replaced. My hip was replaced. I have an 18-inch rod in my femur. My left knee is completely just all biomechanical. And then if you go down to my left foot, every bone in my left foot is all screws and plates. It's kind of one of those hockey sayings, no pain, no gain. Yep. That really was pushed to the test during those next 3 months. And within 3 months, I was out of a wheelchair using a cane, and within 6 months, I was walking without a cane. I still have a limp to this day, but unless even my wife says, unless like she's paying attention, she doesn't notice it. It's just kind of one of those, like people say, how crazy, how lucky. I would say it's kind of one of those things maybe where when people say, bad stuff happens to good people.
Right.
I don't necessarily look at it that way. Maybe it's more bad stuff happens to put you to the test.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that was the course that my life took. I do have regrets, but where I am at now, I don't regret the journey.
No, and I mean that your story is a really good story. I mean, for the things that you went through, all those surgeries that you had to go through, the fact that you weren't planned to be able to walk after that, and then you went through all this, and now you're back and up and able to do that. I mean, it's a great inspiration for people out there that go through things as well, and you turned something that obviously was negative into a positive.
Yeah, it was a very long road. There was a lot of demons along the way that I had to overcome.
Right.
But it's, I guess probably like the biggest thing is prior to that, when I was younger, everybody said I had no apathy. Mm-hmm. I definitely learned apathy out of that whole thing.
I can imagine.
Apathy and patience. Those were two things I learned real quickly.
I can imagine. So after all of this, hockey was your thing before it, of course. And then you started this company doing the masks and everything like that. Was that something that you had some artistic ability for, or was it something that kind of fell into your lap? I mean, like, how did you kind of get into doing these awesome, masks that you do?
So that in itself is also a long story. So the condensed version is basically growing up, I worked. I also raced some. My family is second, third, fourth generation race car drivers. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of the hockey oddball. They all enjoyed hockey. They all loved hockey, but nobody was actually passionate or good at it. Whereas that was where my main focus was, and I just kind of raced part-time. Well, my race cars, I was always particular about how they looked. And the guy that used to do the graphics on my race cars was looking for part-time help while I was still in school. So I would go over there in the afternoons and help him out basically as an apprenticeship. And from there, he was like, hey, you should try painting your own helmet. And I painted my own helmet. But at the same time, I also did a lot of graffiti in high school. And one of the art teachers from school submitted a piece of graffiti I did that I actually got in trouble for to the National Art, I forget the actual technical name of it, Society or something like that. And they came back and they said, who is this? And she said, just a kid at school. And they said, well, we'd like to give him a scholarship. And I said, I have no interest in scholarships at all. I'm playing hockey. Like, I'm going to Canada. I'm playing juniors.
Right.
That's my goal. So after the accident happened, I had a handful of goalies and race car drivers that I knew that said, hey, we know, you messed around with this or that. We know you can't really do a whole lot. We thought maybe, here's some rattle cans. You want to paint it? So I did a couple, and a couple led to a few more. And for like the longest time, it wasn't even something that, like everybody says you should take this seriously. I did not take it seriously at all. Mm-hmm. And then by fate, I just happened to be like, I just need to hit the reset button on life. And, In the course of 2 days, I decided to pack up and move from Syracuse, New York to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I was down there for 10 days, landed a job with one of the race teams down there, working in their paint shop, working on a cup team. Did that for 6-7 months. Went to another team that had better benefits. Did that for a few months, then went to another team. And all the while was meeting all these drivers and pit crew people and PR people and agents and all of that. And they said, hey, we're always looking for somebody to paint helmets for sponsors. So on the side at night, I would just paint a helmet here, a helmet there. And after doing that for 3 years roughly, it kind of got to the point where I was like, I can't really have a regular 9-to-5 job and paint stuff on the side, and just decided, well, at this point, I'm just going to go for it. So I just decided to solely just paint helmets. And at the time, I was not doing any goalie masks. It was just racing helmets for drivers all over the United States, North America. I even had some clients overseas. In, I would say, like 2012 is when I moved to Nebraska with my wife. She's from here. And the entire time, it was just, I was trying to get my foot in the door somewhere with one of my hockey connections to get started. And I mean, every door, it was just closing. I mean, it wasn't even closing. It wasn't even open. It was
difficult.
No, not interested. You just paint racing stuff. And then the story of how I met J.F. LeBay, who actually played in Syracuse with the Syracuse Crunch, and how we got to be friends on Twitter one night, is actually how the door finally opened. And then since then, it's been a floodgate, I guess you will, of new clients all the time.
No, that's fantastic. I mean, that's awesome. And we'll talk about the Kobe one that you just did, but to kind of compare, when you're just doing like without a time crunch or whatever, NHL goalie mask, I think we talked about it. Normally, does it take you about a week or two, and you're doing kind of hours at a time here and there, or how's the process go when you can make it and it's not a rush order per se?
Yeah, I mean, usually. Obviously every design is different, but for the most part, I would say it's probably about a week to 10 days per mask. And, it's 5-6 hours a day split up over the course of that 7 to 10 day period. So like this Kobe mask, the time crunch for it, in all honesty, I've never had a time crunch like that for a goalie mask. I've had a time crunch like that for a racing helmet, but a racing helmet and a goalie mask, as far as the paint jobs go and the amount of detail and what needs to go on it, are vastly different within that time frame. Yeah,
I mean, so with this Kobe one, you really had to crunch it. I mean, I think the timeline was we had the crash on the 26th. You were talking with the Ducks assistant equipment manager, Matt Brayfield, about it. And then the next day, you guys, I think, was when you decided to do it. But you actually got the mask on that Tuesday, and then you finished it on that Thursday. So it was like a 48, 50-hour time period that you finished this mask, which was like insane.
Yeah, basically, it was 50 hours from the time that I got it in my hands to the time that I dropped it off at FedEx. And I slept for 6 hours in that 50-hour time period.
Were you just hyped up on coffee or Red Bull, or how did you get through those 2 days?
No, believe it or not, I don't really drink a whole lot of coffee or Red Bull anymore. A lot of tea, but it was just kind of one of those things where my brain was just like dialed into, this has to get done. Like, this has to get done. This has to be a certain way, and hell or high water, it's going to get done.
Yeah, and that design, did you talk to anybody about what you wanted on there, or was that pretty much your idea, putting the championships on there and the design and everything, and then obviously the names of all the victims on the back side of it?
So, there was probably, I would say, 7 or 8 different people overall that had input on the mask. I mean, Maddie, Gibby, John Wheeler from Level 500 also had some input. It was, I mean, like I had said in the athletic interview, I mean,
Right.
I literally wrote down a list of like 30 things that I wanted to put on there.
Right.
And then once I started, the list kind of went from 30 to I'd say about 10. And then when it went to like the 10, then it kind of turned into, okay, what is the most significant about these 10? And then I would say about halfway through the paint job, I almost just stopped and said, instead of painting this for like a client like Gibby, if Kobe said to me, hey, I want a mask or a helmet or something to hang in my man cave,
Right.
what would he ask for? And I would say, like, the instant that kind of transpired is when, like, everything just started hitting on all the right notes. Because, I mean, it was one of those things where you do something and you stand back and you think and you look and you ponder and go, I think I'm on the right track. I'm not sure. You know, and everybody's like, you got progress pics? You want to share a progress pic? And I'm like, I do, but I don't. And it was, and in some ways, like being able to not necessarily think about it too much, where like you start to overthink everything.
Right.
And you just had that, I have to get it done by this time on Thursday.
Yeah.
You almost just went with your first gut instinct instead of like your second or your third.
Yeah, you cranked it out. I mean, that's amazing. And when you do the masks, is there like a initial process? Like, do you first put on like the background color as the first part, and then you go from image to image, or kind of how do you put do all the paint and whatnot when you're doing the different graphics and logos on there?
So like when it started, I knew like there was one thing two things actually that did not change at all. From the time it started to the time it was finished, was one, the Kobe sneaker logo with the snake wrapped around the basketball. I knew I wanted that on the chin, just because of how significant that was with Nike.
Right.
I also knew we had to have a big 8 and a big 24 on there, so that it was clear as day what it was for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, regardless of if it was Duck colors, if it was Laker colors, if it was just black and white, that 8 and 24, everybody knew what it was. So like when it started, originally I primered it, and then I just did the 36 on the front, and I did the brick base around the bottom. And then from there, kind of the rest of the design took shape. And as like I went up the mask, I knew I wanted to kind of keep that graffiti basketball court style feel to the whole design.
Yeah, and it came out fantastic. I mean, it looked great. He wore it obviously the last couple games. I had one fan ask a question, Isaac. He wanted to know, is that mask something that Gibson will keep, or is that something that will go to the Bryant family?
So I personally do not know the answer to that.
Okay.
I know that Gibby did like personally say he did want to keep it, but I also know at the same time there was talk about giving it to the Bryant family. There was talk about it being auctioned off. I do not know what the final destination for that mask is, though.
Oh, no worries. I mean, that was just a question we had. So, I mean, it was, still a great piece of work, and you've done a lot. This is just one of many masks that you've done. So we look forward to, all the other designs that you're going to have come down the road, and just appreciate you taking out the time to talk today about your story and, how you do your business.
Oh, thank you for having me.
And that was Noah from Shell Shock Designs that came on the show to talk about everything with his helmets and the things that he did. And, Eddie, this is kind of a bigger thing than I thought. He did have an interview also in The Athletic with Eric Stevens. If you didn't see it, you can check it out. But this guy is really a good story of perseverance. This is a guy that grew up playing hockey. That was his plan. He gets in this crazy accident with a postal service truck. He's told that he can't walk, and then he meets another athlete, goes through some serious rehab for several months, was in a wheelchair, then he was using a cane, and now he has a little bit of a limp, but now he can walk. And he went from doing hockey masks from playing hockey to now making hockey masks and also race car driver helmets as well. And I mean, it's just a crazy story. I think it's a good thing for all of us that, if something negative happens to you, you can really overcome it. It's not going to be easy. As he said, he has a lot of metal in his body, basically, because of that accident to get him back to where he was. But you just have to admire this guy. I mean, it's amazing that, he had his dream ended, but then he started a completely new thing that he didn't intend to ever do.
Yeah, it's just one of those things in life where I know a lot of us, myself included, don't want to believe, but everything happens for a reason. I know that's kind of a cliche, but I mean, I really believe that at times. And there's sometimes that things happen to us individually where we're like, no, this is not supposed to happen, blah, blah, blah. But, his story is an inspiration. And look what he's doing now. He's making absolutely beautiful artwork. And you can tell that he has a lot of passion and definitely a lot of talent, but you can tell that all his heart and soul goes into these masks that he makes. It's just stunning when I see the posts. And thank you for coming on the show, and thank you for always tagging Ducks and Pucks too with your work. It's beautiful to see. It's amazing, and I'm glad that everything worked out for you, and just let this be a lesson. Like, if someone tells you can't do it, your personal desire and your will and how you can battle through adversity, you can do it. He was told he wasn't going to walk, and look at him now. He's walking right now, and he's just making, he's making artwork. It's just like his work is going to live on forever, and it's never going to be forgotten. So that's an inspiration right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great story. I mean, obviously we had him on here because of the mask with Kobe and everything. He's done a bunch of other masks as well. And he made it in just over 48 hours, going on 6 hours of sleep. I just thought that was crazy to me for him to jam it out and get it done with all the events that happened this last week. So it's just amazing on his part. So you can check out his stuff too. He's got his website if you want to check out more of his helmets for NASCAR race car type stuff and for hockey. It's at shellshockpaint.com. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. He talks a lot about his work on there. There's a lot of photos on there. Really, really good stuff. So check it out. And yes, we're glad he came on the show. With that, we'll shift gears. We'll go back, more specifically to the Ducks, kind of our middle segment that we normally do. We'll talk about some of the team news and then more trade rumors, trade bait a little bit too. There's been some stuff going on out there, some discussions about some of the players. We talked about some last week. We'll talk about different ones this week, with the exception of Getzlaf. His name came up again. Yes, I know you're probably rolling your eyes, so are we, but we'll talk about him as well. As far as league news or team news, real quick, we had Sprong was recalled from the AHL. The Ducks had 22 players on their roster, so they didn't have to send anybody down. He makes it 23, so the team is full now. We kind of mentioned this earlier. Silverberg and his wife, they had their second child, a baby girl, so congrats to them. And one of our favorites, Delorier, Eddie, he's got 11 fights now. He's still leading the league.
Oh yeah, it's funny you said that. I reached out to him last night on Instagram, and he wrote me back and gave me permission, or gave us permission, for a new idea, a new shirt idea. Before I go into that, I'll let you talk about that, Mike, since that was your idea originally. So so we have Delorier's permission, and he loves this design that you created. So go ahead and talk more about that.
Yeah, we haven't really done any shirts in a while, other than like the stuff, the Ducks and Pucks theme shirts, which you can check those out too as well on bit.ly/DNP gear. Shirts, sweatshirts, and hats are on there. But we haven't really done anything outside of that in a while, so we have one of him fighting where he's knocking out one of the Nashville players. So it's a good graphic. It's a good logo. Kind of doing some things on it because I have to be careful of certain things, as I've learned that I can't put on shirts. But it's going to be good. We have his permission. It's going to be fun. We'll probably post something pretty soon on that. So look for that. It's going to be pretty good. I think you guys will like it. I asked people if they wanted a shirt along these lines, and the response was very good. So hopefully it'll be one that you guys like. Real quick, too, before we get to the trade stuff, Eddie, I did want to mention Sherwood. One of my favorites that I wish that they would bring up. He did have a hat trick this last week for the goals, and it was a crazy hat trick, Eddie. He had scored on a penalty shot and 2 shorthanded goals. I don't think I've ever seen that ever anywhere.
Oh, man. Well, yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right about that. I wish they'd bring up Sherwood. He surprised everybody last season when he came up. And he didn't do that bad for being, quote-unquote, a nobody. But he sure made a name for himself, and people know who he is. And I really hope he gets the opportunity to make the Ducks lineup maybe this season and see what he can do. I mean, there's nothing really, no loss there, but it's not really bad having him in San Diego and getting his confidence and play style like a little bit up. But I think he's a really skilled guy, and he's just... 2 shorthanded goals to complete a hat trick too. That's insane. I can't recall a Ducks player to do that, to score a hat trick, or I can't even recall a hockey player that, off the top of my head that gets a hat trick while he's scoring 2 shorthanded goals.
Yeah, that's just crazy. So a little bit of goals news, and that's one player we've talked about that they should bring up. And now we'll kind of go into the other stuff, the other trade rumors, and kind of some trade bait stuff too. Some names you might want to look around and see if the Ducks should trade him or not. But we talked about Sprong, right? One of the ones that doesn't get called up. So now he's back again, but he keeps going up and down. His name got mentioned in the Eric Stevens article that he's not going to be part of the future plans. It sounds like with the Ducks organization. So of course, everyone's now wondering, well, what does that mean? Is he going to get traded? He's one of the ones that you and I talked about before. And I'm not really surprised by this. It seems like, they like his offense, but they don't like his defense. They don't give him as many opportunities. There's times that he's been benched, for several minutes in a game, or other players have been called up over him and he hasn't gotten a chance to play. I mean, obviously now he's being recalled again, as he has been a couple times. But this is one of the ones, I mean, if you look at some of the players that could be traded, Eddie, this is one that I don't want him traded. I like his game. I like what he has to offer. Yeah, he isn't the best defensively, but this is one of the ones that, I mean, if you're not going to use this guy and you're just going to let him waste away in the AHL, then, maybe the Ducks trade him and try to get something for him.
Yeah, it's one of those unfortunate things. It's kind of weird with Tim. I'm not sure what's going on. He has a lot of skill, and obviously he showed us highlights of how he can score some great goals. It's just the consistency and the defensive play is kind of pulling him back. I don't know what's going on. I think there's more going on to what we all know, but it's kind of unfortunate. You trade for a guy thinking he's going to be part of your plan for the future. Is to be a player that's going to contribute, and you just kind of don't. And I think it's safe to say at this point, the Penguins won this trade. When they traded for Pettersson, so it's just one of those things where hopefully we can get some a good return, and whoever we get that can pan out and contribute to the Ducks, and we can actually kind of win this trade at least.
Yeah, exactly, and try and get some kind of return. I mean, if you're not going to use him and try and play him, then yeah, you want to try and go out there and get something for him. Another name that came up on the list too this week was just mentioned by Pierre LeBrun, also the Athletic, was Kase. And his name came up with Boston. Obviously, that name has come around too, as we talked about Backus and the whole, are they going to try and unload that contract when the Ducks go after him? Well, here's another type deal that LeBrun mentioned. He says, what about Oscar Steen and a 2020 third-round pick for Kase? And we put out the poll question on that, and you guys were overwhelmingly like, hell no. It was almost like 80 to 20% that Kase, you don't want him going anywhere. So That one's another interesting one. I don't like the trade either. I don't think the value's good enough there, Eddie, for him. I think, like a lot of people were saying, maybe the Ducks could try to get a higher draft pick out of it. Or if you're looking for Steen's a center. I don't know if the Ducks would really need to look for one. They might want to look for a winger to trade for him. But what are your thoughts on that latest proposed trade?
I think a third round pick is kind of too low. You go for a second round, then we're talking a first round. Absolutely, that's not going to happen though. But a third round seems a little bit low for him. He has potential. He's shown flashes of greatness by some of the goals he scored, by his playability. He hasn't reached that full potential yet. I'm not sure if he's ever can reach that level. We never know with him. He's I believe he was a 6th or 7th round draft pick, but he's really was underrated and came up. He's been plagued with injuries. That's the downfall. But a third round for me won't do it. If they do that trade, I'd be upset, and I'd be one of the people voting no against that trade. A second round, okay. I'll be happy with that. But I can't see a prospect that we don't know how he's going to pan out, or a third round draft pick. It's too low for me.
Yeah, that's what most of you out there on the poll question on Facebook were saying. If you look at Steen, he played in the Swedish League last year, 46 games, 17 goals and 20 assists. And then he's been with the Bruins this year in the AHL, also 46 games, just 6 goals and 10 assists. So, he had a decent season, obviously, over in Europe. But, again, that's in Europe the year before. The AHL, not so much. So there's some numbers to compare. You look at Kase and what he's done. Remember, he had 20 goals back in 2017-18. Last season, he wasn't able to play the whole year, as you know, with the injury issues. And then this season, he's got 6 goals and 15 assists, also in 46 games. So there's some numbers to compare, and you can kind of look over. The only thing that I think depletes his value a little bit is the injury stuff that we talked about. But, his name was mentioned in the Falk trade earlier this season, and we know that was confirmed. We just don't know what all the other pieces were that were involved. So I still think he has a decent value, and I'm with you too, Eddie. I just don't think that third round pick is necessarily a good enough for him. And if that's the kind of deal that's floating around there, at least that's what LeBrun's saying, then the Ducks should keep him. That's my take on that whole thing.
Yeah, I do. I definitely agree with you 100%. It's just keep him and see if he can, just reach that potential that we've seen before and be just consistently good. And who knows, some players take longer to develop than others, and we might have a potential, a top forward that we've been looking for, and that I think he's played in the left wing a few times too. He can play that position. So I don't know, just it's going to be weird come trade deadline. It's a few weeks away. I know a lot of people are going to be posting every rumor in the world. You're going to have the Kansas City the Super Bowl champion Chiefs quarterback will probably be rumored to the Ducks for him. Who knows these rumors? But I think if we're going to trade someone like that and not knowing his potential, we have to really have a team a little bit overpay at this time. Look with Carlson. Everyone's freaking out because he just blossomed into a pure goal scorer, and he's just been better since he left the Ducks. But, I'm not sure if he was going to reach that potential with the Ducks, or I don't know if the Ducks traded him too soon and didn't realize what they had until he was gone. But I just don't want to see another player leave and then have that much success. It's glad they have that much success, and I'm happy for them. But I just don't want the Ducks to kind of miss out on a player that has more potential than, they see right now.
I agree with you 100%. So those are a couple of the names that have come up out there as far as, trade bait, as I call it, or possible trades. We had mentioned Sprong and Kase before, so it's not really a surprise. So both those names out there again. Then the other name that came up, and here you go, you want to roll your eyes. Yeah, Ryan Getzlaf. He's back in the news again by the NHL Trade Rumors website, where they had talked about it before. And I don't know if they listened to our podcast, Eddie, because we kind of ripped them a new one last week. If you remember, they were talking about the GM Bob Murray getting phone calls on Getzlaf, and we were like, yeah, no kidding. The sun comes up in the morning. So, I mean, it's kind of obvious, right? Like, that's what we said, that GMs talk to GMs, especially when the trade deadline's coming up, and a lot of players' names get thrown around. And we talked about how there was no real specific deal in place. So then they write another article, and now they're saying Getzlaf to Edmonton involving Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and some other kind of prospects. And I'm giving it a big no, Eddie. I just thought it was funny, though, because we said how there was no real details. And then, shortly after the show comes out an article about this. And I don't know. I just got to shake my head. This is one of the ones that, like I said, unless he was super mad for Perry being gone or something like that, but with his family and everything here, I don't see it happening, and I don't see him going to Edmonton or Nugent-Hopkins coming down here.
No, and I can't see Getzlaf agreeing to a trade. He's at that age where, he just doesn't have to. He has a cup already. He's been the face of the franchise for it seems like forever now. He has a family to think about. He has one more year left on his contract. I can't see him take a trade. I can't see him wanting to leave his family or move his wife and 4 kids. It makes zero sense at all. I think people, I think some websites just like to post just to get clicks and clickbait, and they want to make things bigger than they are. You're one of those websites. I'm sorry to say, you're just kind of a piece of shit. Just to kind of like spiral things out of control. We're not like that. If we get credible news, we're going to post it, but we're not going to post, false information just because we want a few more clicks and a few more people coming to our page. That's not how we work. And I can tell you this right now. I can guarantee that Getzlaf's not going anywhere. He's not going to go to Edmonton for him, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. And that trade doesn't even make sense either. Trading a younger player for an older one, it just doesn't make sense, and I really doubt that Edmonton will actually make the playoffs. They always find a way toward the end of the season to choke and miss out on it. So it's just one of those things where it's just people just punting throw spaghetti at the wall throwing spaghetti in the wall, see if it sticks. That Murray quote.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what's going on with these rumors, but I just bring it up because hey, you know what? It's out there. I know people are talking about it. It's another little update on there. It is what it is. So that's your latest on that part. But moving on from that, if you didn't catch it, we had Thomas wrote an article about more realistic approach about who could be traded, who could not be traded, and whatnot. It's a really good article. It's detailed. There's a lot in it. He reiterates a lot of the stuff that we talked about on the last show as far as who he thinks could be moved and not moved. Not going to go into every single player on there. We'd be on the show for 2-3 hours, but you can go on there, check it out. But there are 2 names that he mentioned in the article that we didn't talk about, and I thought were interesting. He brought up Thomas brought up some good points, but he brought up Goodbranson and Henrique. And I'll start with Goodbranson. I thought this was an interesting one. He was talking about his contract. And obviously, he signed through next season, $4 million. So an idea that Thomas threw out there was the Ducks could trade Goodbranson so that they didn't have to pay him that much money next season. Maybe retain a little bit of the salary and move him out and try to bring in some more youth. He thinks that Goodbranson's value's gone up. Not a lot, but it's gone up somewhat, since he's been on the Ducks. I don't know if they'll do this one, but I bring it up because it's a creative idea. I just thought it was pretty interesting that Thomas even suggested it because he's saying, well, maybe the Ducks try and make some cap space a little bit, even though that's not necessarily an issue for them. Like we said, it'll depend on how the trade deadline and the offseason goes with all the RFAs and UFAs. But it's kind of an out-of-the-box idea, and it's interesting to talk about. I mean, what do you think about Goodbranson and the Ducks maybe trying to trade him and retain some salary or not?
I like that approach. I like how he thought outside the box with Goodbranson. When he first got here, we talked about that. I mentioned that I thought his salary was $1 million too much for a player like that, but I now it seems like his play is elevated and he's playing better on the Ducks than he did it with the Penguins. I like that approach though. You buy low, sell high. Basically, we got him for a 7th round draft pick. Martinson contracted was terminated by the Penguins, so basically we just traded a 7th round pick, and we can probably get a little bit more for him now, and that's a good approach to take. I think he's played well with the Ducks. And another thing I want to throw out there too, since Manson's name has been brought up, if we do trade Manson, we have kind of a Manson replacement that we can use. So I can play that top 4 minutes. Manson's definitely a better player than Goodbranson and is going to fetch a better return. But if the Ducks want to go that route and they're still in that mindset of they're going to keep rebuilding and building their team better, I mean, why not try that as well too? We have someone that can play that. It was a really great read from Thomas. If you guys haven't read it, I suggest you do. And I like the approach, just as long as we get, more of a return than what we paid for him, which obviously a 7th round pick is really low, but I think he's played and he's proved that, that he can elevate his game and be better. And he's proved that all this time playing with the Ducks. So I think, it's safe to say if the right deal comes around and we can get, a better return from him, then, why not consider it?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, a 7th round pick. I mean, if the Ducks retain $1 or $2 million, I could see them definitely getting a higher pick, maybe a 4th or a 3rd round. Inching up there, depending on how much they would retain on the salary. That obviously would impact that, but they could for sure get a higher pick than a 7th round if they wanted to move him out. That's the idea there. I'm with you though. If you keep Manson, maybe you move Goodbranson. If you don't keep Manson, then you do keep Goodbranson. All these rhymes, right? But I mean, you got to keep at least one of these two. I don't think both will be moved. So that's something to ponder, because we did talk about Manson on the last show, and you can go back and listen to that one. We talked about him, Gitson, and of course we talked about Getzlaf as well, which is a big no-no. But so you can look at that, and like Eddie was saying, you can go and look at this article. The other one that Thomas brings up I thought was interesting too was Adam Henrique. And he says, I'm not sure what they're going to do with him. And it's a good point. I mean, he's, signed for 4 more seasons, around $5.8 million. He's been really good in the center position, but as Thomas talks about, he's been streaky at times too. Right now, he's kind of on a high. He's leading the team, right? He's got 17 goals, so he's been doing well. But one of the issues that Thomas was saying is that his contract, because of the length of it, doesn't know if the Ducks could get him, a good return for him coming back. He's also got a modified no-trade clause. He submits a 10-team list that he doesn't want to go to. So, there's that. It's not a complete hurdle, but a little bit of a hurdle there too as well. So, I like Henrique. This is one I really would not trade. I think he's doing pretty good. Yeah, he's a little bit streaky on his scoring, but I like what he brings to the table as far as his face-offs, his scoring, his defense, everything all around. Yeah, the offense kind of comes and goes, but I think he's a solid player right now. And, we still don't know about Kessler, right? We know he's doing his podcast with Bieksa, but and he's not living in the area. Thinking he's not going to be back next season. So, if he's not going to be back and then you trade Henrique, and Getzlaf's going to retire soon. Now all of a sudden you're depleting your centers, and we're going down to Steele, Grant, Rowney, those kind of things. So I think this is one that the Ducks would keep, Eddie.
Yeah, it makes really no sense to trade him, especially if you're planning, to be competitive. And I think they'll be competitive in about 2 or 3 years. He's a player that, especially, in 2 or 3 years time frame, if we get bolstered up in the center position, he'd be an amazing third-line center, just like, above average third-line center. I can't see Kessler coming back with this hip, injury. From what I heard for the podcast, he didn't mention it or anything. It just seems like that's it for him. And he doesn't really have to come back. He played his 1,000th game already and went from there. Unfortunately, he never won a cup, but I can't see him coming back. It doesn't make sense. His quality of life, like I said, is more important. Henrique, if the Ducks were to trade him, they're going to have to eat up some money in his contract. But yeah, it seems like he's comfortable in Anaheim, and yeah, he is streaky, and I agree with that. But you never know. different time, a right role. We have other players coming up that can take the center position. He drops down to a third line, and he's going to play against, other third line or fourth line players, and he can probably just contribute more. So I think it's just, in my mind, it'd be safe to keep him. But like I always say, if the right deal comes along, then yeah, I'm all for it. But I can't see him going anywhere at the deadline.
Yeah, and you mentioned the right deal. Thomas talks a lot about that with some of the players in the article, so go back, check that out. We'll probably put another link up on it too, so you can go look at it. But I think that's a lot of the theme for this trade deadline is the right type of deal, other than a couple of the players we said out there, because we know Kase has been attempted to be traded before. We've seen Sprong kind of be on the outside looking in. Some of those guys like that. We talked about Nick Ritchie and Devin Shore before as well. Some guys that could be moved. So there's a couple there that I think that the Ducks could part with. But I think a lot of it's going to be making the right kind of deal if it comes along. So each show we'll talk about it. More news comes up. We'll talk about who we think could be trade bait for the Ducks or what other rumors we hear. We'll talk about them and do some more poll questions and get you guys to weigh in. With that, we'll shift gears and talk about the league. There's all kinds of stuff that's been going on this last week, Eddie. Some hilarious stuff that we'll go into as well, but I'll let you start breaking it down as we finish up the show with the last segment here with the league-wide news.
Definitely. Let's talk about, start off with Gary Bettman. He was talking about the Olympics, and he said it's going to be extremely disruptive for the players, and that they still won't participate in the Olympics. So if you're hoping that things were going to change, you're going to see the Olympics with NHL players, that's not going to happen. I'm not upset about this, Mike. I like this. I don't really like the players participating in the Olympics. If they get hurt, it just screws up everyone. Just take, for example, if the Ducks were competitive, they're making a cup run and they lose their star player, for a game that just pretty much, it's not really going to matter to the team. So I'm with Bettman, and I'm with them not having, NHL players in the Olympics. Remember what happened in 1980 when USA won gold? They won it with a bunch of amateur players. So I'm all for them not participating in the Olympics. Also, too, NHL news, Ed Belfour, the goalie, he used to play for the Stars, Hall of Famer goalie. He got arrested for criminal mischief and drunk in public. He also tried fighting a hotel employee. So his mugshot was pretty hilarious. He was kind of smiling. I guess when you're that rich, you can smile when you get arrested.
and drunk.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'd probably start crying if I got arrested. I don't know. I wouldn't be smiling, and I don't make that much money, so I probably couldn't bail myself out for that. But I don't know if you want to talk about add anything else about the Olympics.
No, I'm with you. I'm not a big fan of that and players going out and getting hurt and whatnot. So if they don't want them to participate, to me, it's not a big deal. I mean, to some people, it's a big thing, but it's not. So I'm with you on that. And I know the other part of this, too, that you want to talk about was the All-Star game during this break, which I didn't even watch it. I'm not going to lie. Another thing that I'm just not really that into. But I guess you watched the women's 3-on-3, and you said that was pretty exciting, Eddie.
Oh, yeah. Man, those girls were moving. They were flying. And I can't remember her name right now. The Canadian goaltender was just on fire. That game was really fun. I don't like the All-Star game personally. I think it's just like whatever to me. And I watched it because, I definitely want to watch the women's 3-on-3. I didn't really watch the skills competition. I watched the men's game too, the All-Star game the next day because I was bored. But, I mean, man, those girls were flat out moving and they were playing with so much passion and speed. And it was really fun to watch. It was getting kind of chippy toward the end. So that was really great to see, and I really hope people don't not watch it because they're women, but those girls had skill, the way they moved the puck, it was just amazing, and I had a good time. It was probably one of the only times I actually had fun watching the All-Star game for that. So I really hope that the NHL incorporates them again doing a game like that because that was really fun to watch. Also, another good thing was Green Day performed. They did a great job. People got bent out of shape because they dropped the F-bomb and blah, blah, blah. People are getting they're all It's a family-friendly show. You should never said that. It's freaking hockey. Get over it. It's a freaking F-bomb. Like, other things happen in the world and stuff like that are way worse. I bet the people complaining are the same ones that don't want fighting in hockey and probably drop F-bombs in front of their kids all the time. Hate when someone else does it. But you know what? Green Day was awesome. So that was pretty cool to see. The Golden Knights, too, they want to actually buy and relocate an AHL franchise. Right now they're with the Chicago Wolves, but they want to buy them and move them to Vegas. So Vegas is going to have their second, I guess, professional hockey team. So that's going to be interesting to see if they get that deal done. And they also are in talks for the Rockford Ice Hogs as another team they're rumored to bring over there. So it's good to see the sports franchise in Vegas building. They're getting the Raiders coming next year, or actually this season, upcoming season. So it's good to see their fans embracing sports and them are able to grab that other hockey team. Moving on to the Pittsburgh Penguins, Marcus Pettersson signed a 5-year, $20.1 million deal with the AAV of $4.02 million. He signed a team-friendly deal last season, so some people might think this is a little bit of an overpayment. However, I don't know if the Penguins are kind of like, okay, hey, since he signed that team-friendly deal last season, we're going to give you a little bit, more money this season when they can afford it. We all know Crosby has signed and Malkin both signed team-friendly deals, and they could have got a lot more. But it's I'm happy to see a former Ducks player having success and over there. I don't care where he's playing, and he's really good. I guess they like him a lot because his defensive responsibility is always up, and he just kind of like plays the game, to his best ability, and I'm glad it's working out for him.
Yeah, we had one fan question about that. We had Alex. He asked, was it too soon for Pittsburgh to give him that deal? Was it a good trade with Sprong and whatnot? To me, I think it's a little bit of an overpayment. I mean, when he went to Pittsburgh, 2018 and 19, he had 2 goals and then 17 assists, which, I mean, obviously assists are pretty good up there. And then this last current season, he's got 1 goal and 14 assists on there. He's been playing good. He was, plus 13 last season with Pittsburgh, plus 5 this season. A little bit heavy on the penalty minutes last year and a little bit lighter this season. So, I mean, I'm happy, like you said, for him to get a deal and whatnot, to go to Alex's question. But I do think it's a little bit either too much in term or too much in payment for me. I mean, 5 years, $4 million for that. I mean, I don't know. Maybe a year or two shorter, or maybe around $3 million. I don't know. I think he got a little bit extra in there, but maybe it's like what you said, Eddie. Take the team-friendly deal, and they probably told him, "Hey, we'll be able to give you a better one later on."
Oh, definitely, and I agree when you said $3 million. I think that's fair for him. Maybe a 3 at 3 or 3 at 4 would be reasonable, but apparently he's doing the right things in Pittsburgh, and he's believing in their plan. And they're a competitive team. They're still a competitive team for years to come. So I think just happy that he got paid a little bit more than he's worth, but it's good for him. Moving on, I want to jump to the AHL, the Ontario Reign, their All-Star competition skill. Martin Frk, it's Frk, I believe. I apologize if I said the name wrong, but he's had the record for the hardest shot, 109.2. Holy crap, that's fast. It does amazing, and a player like that, I don't know why he's not playing with the Kings right now and taking those 109.2 slap shots toward goalies, but I don't know. Glad he's not. The Kings are sucking, so that's cool. That was I don't know, Mike. I don't know if you saw the clips or you saw the highlights. I saw the highlights. It just
amazing.
Wow, that puck was moving so fast. If I were playing in net and I saw a guy like that shooting like that, I'd just move out of the way. You know what, bro? Go ahead and score the damn goal. He deserves that. I'm not gonna get hit by that.
Oh yeah, I mean it's crazy, man. I watched those highlights too, and him ripping that shot, I was like, holy freak, or whatever, however you want to pronounce his last freak, whatever, however you want to say it. I was like, damn, dude, like this guy's got a rocket, man.
I think it's appropriate. You could drop the F-bomb on that, because
right, holy F. I mean, just wow. It's just crazy that what he did in there. So it's like call that guy up. Like what are you doing, Kings? I mean, what are they doing? I don't know.
Seattle, apparently a team rumor leaked of their name called the Seattle Kraken. I've seen jokes already about the crackheads.
Yeah, release the Kraken!
Yeah, oh man, that's so funny. So I don't know why they're waiting so long. They were supposed to announce the team name at the All-Star game, so I don't know why it's taking so long, but whatever, who cares? San Jose Sharks, yeah, shout out to the person too, I totally forgot your name, but you liked how we talk about like things like league news that happens within our division, so thank you for that. San Jose Sharks, Thomas Hertl is out for the rest of the season with the torn ACL and MCL. Yeah, it's the Sharks. Screw them, but that sucks for him. That guy's such a talented player, and it's a major blow to them. And I mean, they have a roster that they should be competing for a cup, and they're down in the bottom of the standings in the Biggest Loser competition. But it's unfortunate for that. The Coyotes are being investigated for allegations of physical testing of draft eligible players. Apparently, they were prematurely testing players that were, they could possibly draft, and I guess that's against the NHL rules. You can only do it at the combine, whatever. So they're being investigated. I'm not sure what's going to happen if they get found guilty, if they're going to lose draft picks, get fined. I don't know. We'll keep you updated on that story. Edmonton, the Battle of Alberta was in
Yes. This is what I want to talk about.
yes. Actually, you know what? I have one more thing to talk about, league news, but I'll keep on this thing. But Kase and Tkachuk finally dropped them. It was good. He didn't prolong it, and he knew it was coming. And that's what it's all about. You do things like that, you go and answer for it. And it was a good game. It was really, just on fire. But then what happened 2 days later, or 3 days later on Saturday when they played, they had a full line brawl, including the goalies fight. And that was just
yes.
great. Cam Talbot and Mike Smith went at it. They used to play, Cam Talbot played for Edmonton, Mike Smith played for Calgary, and now they're on opposite teams, and they dropped the gloves, and it was just so fun to see. Like I said, I was at Old Town Pasadena at the bar, and they had it on the big screen showing the highlights, and everyone just kind of stopped and was watching it. And it's like, oh, that's the kind of thing that draws fans in. That's part of the game, and that's awesome. If you don't like fighting in hockey, like I said, go watch badminton or something. Like, you're not a real hockey fan, because that was amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, you know what? I love fights. But you know what I love more than hockey fights is hockey goalie fights. and I mean, this was just like, I remember because this was going on during the Ducks Kings game, and you had Deloria and McDermott going at it, and then this came across my feed, and I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. Seeing them go at it was hilarious, and it reminds me of one of your favorites, Patrick Waugh, back in the late 90s. I was rewatching these actually this last couple days when him and Vernon went at it, and Osgood. If you remember, for your old school hockey fans, when Detroit and Colorado were really going at it in the late 90s, those two line brawls that they had, oh my God. And I was watching those goalie fights again, I was just cracking up. And I mean, to me, it's like, it's just the best thing. When you see goalies with all those pads trying to throw punches and just trying to grab each other, it's just the funniest thing to see, like two Michelin men going at it. I just start cracking up, like laughing so hard that I have tears in my eyes, Eddie.
Oh, yeah, it was a Michelin man. That's awesome. Yeah, it's always fun to see. I'm still waiting for a Ducks, Gibson or Miller gloves. That's just to be. I don't care if Ducks lose 12-0. I don't care if I see goalies fighting. That's it for me. I'm just done.
Yep.
So looking forward to that. Hopefully Gibson go ahead and knock someone out. That'd be cool. Now our last league news is the Mighty Ducks goaltender from the movie, Sean Weiss, I believe his name is pronounced. He was arrested for being under the influence of methamphetamine and burglary. He's really struggling with addiction. Reading more into it, he kind of lost himself when his parents passed. I'm not sure. I've never done meth. I've never been around people that have done it. I had friends from high school that have done it, and I cut ties with them when I found out they were on it because I just didn't want to, go that direction or have, be around people doing that. One of his friends has a GoFundMe page established for him to get him help, to get him some mental illness help, to get him into rehab. Billy Ray Cyrus, Miley Cyrus's dad, is pledging $60,000 for his rehab treatment. This is kind of tough, and it kind of heartbreaking. A person that most of us grew up watching from the movies, is struggling that bad, and seen his picture too. Just he's like 40 something years old, and he looks like he's almost 70, and just how that drug is consuming him. And I'm not making an excuse, if for any drug addicts, and it's their choice, but I mean, to losing both your parents and to deal with that, I don't know how I'd deal with it. I don't know if I would, definitely wouldn't do meth, but I don't know if I would just get into more drinking or whatnot. It's one of those unfortunate things where I wish that he gets the help that he needs, and I know mental illness is probably playing it. About Let's Talk was on Monday the 29th, and we posted a few things on our Ducks and Pucks and our personal sites. If any of you guys are dealing with mental illness, you guys can reach out to us and talk to us. Like, I don't care if you just want to shoot the shit about hockey. Like, I understand what that goes through. Like, I suffer from mental illness, and it took me a while to actually be honest with myself and truthful and actually say it out loud. So I thought I was weak-minded, and I thought that saying it would make me not a strong person, but it's not like that. It's just a chemical imbalance in your brain, and it's one of those things where you can't really control it. And I get it. Like, just sometimes I struggle, every day in personal life. I try not to project that on social media. I try to keep it as professional as I can. But I mean, sometimes it's a battle to get out of bed. Like, I gotta fight myself, and hey, you know what? Is this the day where I'm gonna let this disease consume me? But I'm still here, and I'm here for anyone that ever wants to talk. Anything. I don't care if you want to tell me your problems, or you just want to ask me, hey, what do you think about this game, or talk. I know a few of you guys, I'm not going to name by name, that reached out to me. A close friend of mine who lost her mother. She battled with addiction. I saw her and go through that crap, but she still reaches out to me, and she talks just random stuff, and she's better now. So, I mean, I understand, I'm far from perfect, trust me, and I'm far doing well than you guys see on social media. So, I'm a good listener, and I'm a good talker, and I know a lot about hockey. So if you guys ever want to talk hockey, and like I said, feel free to DM me, and I'm always open to having anyone talk to me about anything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sad situation, to see Sean like that deteriorate. He had trouble before, and now, he lost his parents, and he spiraled down, as you talked about, Eddie. And, we talked about getting past this month of January for 2020. It's usually a month of happiness for you and I, really, because, I mean, obviously you have New Year's Day, you have the Winter Classic, the Super Bowl, you have your birthday, my birthday, a lot of other friends like Phil Hewlett and whatnot, they have their birthdays this month that I'm close with and stuff. And this month's been tough. I'm not gonna lie. We've talked about, I lost my mom on New Year's Eve, technically. So I guess the day before January. But I mean, that happened, and then my uncle, and I also didn't really advertise it a whole lot on social media. I also had an aunt pass away, so I had 3 family members pass. And it's not just me, though. There's other people out there that I know that not just Eddie, you, but other people too, that and the same thing, I'm not going to mention names, but they lost a parent, a brother, a grandchild, different people that have been affected in different ways, people that I work with, people that I'm friends with, some of you that are listening, I've talked to you too, that I've seen your posts on social media too, and we've had some good discussions this last couple weeks about things and trying to deal with stuff and everything. And I don't know if I mentioned it too, Eddie. Things for me haven't been super smooth either. For me, my issue's been getting a good night's sleep. It's been tough this last month. I'm not gonna lie. Trying to just actually either go to sleep or try to, once I do sleep, to keep a solid night of rest. It's been rough. It hasn't been that easy. So, but like Eddie said, all the stuff going on that's happened. Those of you out there that have had stuff happen, and I know a lot of it's been this month, and some of you that we've talked about stuff that's happened in the past too. So we're open to anything. If it's some kind of thing that you're going through, like a bad accident. I've had a couple friends that have had that happen to them too. Different things like that. We're here to help out and listen. That's probably one of the biggest things I do like about doing this. Yeah, we come on here, we talk hockey, and sometimes we joke around and we talk funny stuff and things like that. But on a serious note, we're here as a support too, to help you out, and want you to know that that we're just not a show that's only about talking hockey. We get it that there's a family involved in the community amongst our friends and whatnot, and that's important. To lean on each other and help each other, especially with the stuff with this helicopter crash stuff. I mean, I was trying to get away from all the other stuff that had been going on that Sunday, and ended up going out to eat at a restaurant where I knew the owner, and the owner tells me that when I come in, and I don't talk a lot about other sports on the show. Some of you know that obviously I'm an Angel fan and I'm a Ram fan, but I was also a Laker fan, a Kobe fan too. And after Magic and Kareem, Byron Scott, and those guys of the 80s and early 90s and stuff left, Kobe and Shaq was what I watched. I mean, so for me, that's just terrible to see all that stuff happen and all the people on board. It's just I don't know what's going on with 2020, but for me, it's been the worst month ever in my life. Really, this month has just been terrible as far as people being affected and things going on. But the only way out of it is going up. And that's the key. And if you need someone to talk to, Eddie and I are here, and we're more than willing to help out and do what we can. Right, Eddie?
Oh, definitely. 100%. Like I said, I'll keep saying it. I'll say it throughout, more shows that we record. And, you guys can always reach out to me. You can reach out to Mike, and always happy to talk. Like I said, you just talk about hockey, ask me questions. It's just talk. And sometimes it helps. Sometimes letting it out, and I know, I know life sucks at times. It's kind of, fucked. I'll go ahead and say that for a lot of people, but I mean, we're all here for each other, and I think we have a responsibility to kind of take care of each other. And I'm definitely happy to go for bat for you and drop the gloves for you guys. You guys are make this site, this page runnable. You pretty much everyone that listens and supports hockey or anything, and including you, Mike, you made me have a purpose in life, and that's like one of the things that I owe Mike and I owe everyone else. I wake up with a purpose every day, just to kind of just comment on hockey, talk about hockey, and be part of this game, and I love it. I love being part of this team, and I don't know where my life would have been if I'd never been a hockey fan, or I don't know if I would have gave up way sooner than I should, but it just is amazing, and I love the support, and I definitely love you, Mike. You're like my brother, man. Like, and when you hurt, I hurt, and it's just you always been there for me, and your heart's so big. You put people first, like you and your wife too, Sin. It just you guys just are so loving and caring. It's amazing, and it's just it's good to have that friendship, that brotherhood, and like I said, you're my brother, man, and I love doing this. I love working with Ducks and Pucks, and I just love all of you. I hope, we can all get through this together. 2020 sucked so far, but guess what? It's February. Let's have each other's back. And like I said, if any of you guys need help, let me know. I'll drop the gloves for you anytime.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way. Obviously, you being like my unofficial brother, not biological, obviously, but absolutely, and hey, I got to throw some humor in here, right? We got to end on a funny note. No, but in all seriousness, definitely. If you need any kind of help, we're here. Another thing I did want to mention too is that if you want to help the people in the crash, all the families that were affected, there's a website you can donate. It's called mambaon3.org/donate. You can go on there and you can provide money that goes to all the victims of the families that were affected. And I kind of did a ritualistic thing. I usually don't say this because I donate to different causes around the year and whatnot, and I don't usually mention it or make it a big deal. But I mean, for this one, I don't know why, it just felt like a big deal to me. So what I did, especially with Kobe's number and everything, is I ended up donating $824 to the fund, to the families, to help out. And I'm not, it's just because his number and everything and all that, it's it's something I felt I needed to do. And it's not a competition or anything. If any of you out there feel like you want to donate. And if you don't, you don't. But I mean, it's out there if you want to help those families. mambaon3.org/donate. With that, I'll wrap up a little couple like housekeeping things with what's going on with us, and then we'll rewind the show down. But if you ordered the shirts the new Ducks and Pucks, 2.0 version shirts. They've been mailed out. They're really soft and comfortable. The logo is much better than the original one that we had way back when this was all starting out, and it was a small operation, I guess you can say. Which, I mean, we still kind of are, but you can check those out. You can go to onthevolley.com and then just put in Ducks and Pucks when you search, and it'll come up with the hats and T-shirts. And also, if you want, you can go on patreon.com/DucksNPucks. If you want to become a member on there and help us out, you'll end up getting some free gear, Ducks tickets, a chance to win those, and also a chance to get a $200 gift card from Cool Hockey, so something else to check out. And we are working on more watch parties. I know we kind of haven't had some in a little bit. Obviously, I haven't been in necessarily the partying mood this last month or so, but we will have some for sure. I'm working on some different things. I'm not going to announce it yet, but we've got some things in the works, so stay tuned for that. And, we'll be back. Scheduling is going to be a little weird. The next show might be like a week and a half or so, but stay tuned for that. And thanks for all the support, and let's go Ducks.